Baking soda has some unbelievable impacts on cancer. In fact, it can weaken tumors within hours. This was a study showing that injecting baking soda directly into a tumor within 30 minutes can dramatically decrease the levels of key proteins needed for the cancer to survive. Another example here showed that within an hour, the same thing happened to a different enzyme that's also vital for cancers to spread and become lethal. But it's not just injections. In fact, a baking soda solution that you can literally make within your kitchen right now has shown unbelievable benefits in cancer. Here's one study using animals who received either baking soda water or regular water. And once these animals were given cancer, the animals with the baking soda water actually lived on average about twice as long. It also reduced the deadly spread of cancer known as metastasis. In fact, if you actually look at the lungs, this green signal here is a sign that the cancer has spread from the breast in a primary tumor over to the lungs, and this type of spread is typically what causes cancer to be so lethal. But just including the baking soda dramatically reduces the amount of the cancer that's spread from the breast to the lungs. The animals given baking soda, you can barely even see any cancer cells in the lungs. Meanwhile, the ones who got normal water, their lungs were flooded with cancer cells. And baking soda was able to do this because it alters the pH of tumors. And this is a measurement of how acidic or basic something is. In cancer, the body tends to be in an acidic state, whereas baking soda helps correct that acidity by making your body more basic. This is especially true if we look at the tumor itself. The tumor environment, the microenvironment of the tumor, is typically very acidic. And this acidity promotes the spread of cancer, and it makes the cancers much more able to survive. And if we go back to the original figures, we can see that the levels of key enzymes involved in the survival of cancer cells are dramatically lowered simply by correcting this acidity in these tumors. Both of these enzymes pictured here are involved in the breakdown of the tissue around the tumor. And if that tissue is broken down sufficiently, then that obviously allows the cancer tumor to spread more effectively. And just by correcting the acidity of the tumor, those enzymes are tampered down, and that prevents the spread of this cancer. But it's not just limited to the spread of cancer. Other studies have shown that using baking soda orally can even prevent the initiation of cancer. In this next study, they gave animals either normal water or baking soda water, and then they tried to give them prostate cancer. And it was shown that the animals who got baking soda had dramatically smaller tumors and less tumors, meaning that it literally prevented these animals from getting cancer. And not only that, but 70% of those animals still survived till the end of the study. Meanwhile, the ones who got regular water, all of them died. And this isn't even a crazy amount of baking soda. They typically use 200 millimolar of baking soda water for these animals, which comes out to around 12 grams of baking soda for a human. This next study used the same amount of baking soda and showed that it increases the effectiveness of chemotherapy. You can see in this figure, this Doxil, that's the chemotherapy, and you can see that it shrank the tumors on its own. But when the baking soda is added, that NaCHO3, it further shrank down the tumors. And then when they used a different chemotherapeutic drug, it only worked in the presence of baking soda. And that was in colon cancer, which is among the top killers in terms of cancers. If we look at something like liver cancer, we actually have research in humans showing that baking soda can help. Now, one of the common treatments for liver cancer is a surgery called TACE. And this is a procedure where doctors go in and they directly inject the tumor with chemotherapeutic drugs, and then they also cut circulation off from it. However, in the process, by choking off the circulation to that tumor, it creates an even more acidic environment. So in order to correct this, the researchers co-injected baking soda along with the chemo. And what do they find? Well, their tumor numbers were cut by over half, and they survived significantly longer. As you can see here, at around 42 months after the surgery was done, those receiving the baking soda, about 60% of those people survived, whereas only 20% of the people without the baking soda survived. And they also did imaging in these studies. So if you take a look here, this is an MRI image here. You can see before the therapy, these bright signals that you're getting on this MRI are indicative of the tumor growth. However, after the therapy, you can see that that signal is pretty much completely gone from the liver. And we see that this does not need to be injected in order to correct the issue. Because in cancer patients, the level of acidity, specifically in the urine, is a key determinant of their survival. And one of the main causes behind systemic acidity is impaired metabolism. And if you are someone who's struggling with your metabolism or really any other health goal, then you should definitely hit us up at Prism. At Prism, we have multiple different practitioners and we've worked with around 500 different clients. We take a personalized, research-backed approach to our clients with one-on-one support, lab testing, and comprehensive reports in order to give you the best possible care. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you want any type of personalized help with your health goals, book a free call here and we'll get you right. Now, probably the most lethal and deadly cancer of all is end-stage pancreatic cancer. This cancer has a 5-year survival rate in the single digits, so it's incredibly devastating. And in this paper here, they took patients and they gave them an alkalinizing diet, which basically makes them more basic, and they also gave them baking soda, which also helps in the alkalinization process. And they compared that to patients who are on their normal regimen without the alkalinization. And they found that the pH of the urine was a primary determinant of how long they were able to survive. So essentially, if it was able to sufficiently make these people more basic, more alkaline, then these people survived dramatically longer than the people who still struggled with acidity. So they survived about 25 months on average, as opposed to 10 months in the people without the alkalinization. And if we look at this chart, you can see that every single person in the control group and who did not achieve sufficient alkalinity, they all died. Whereas the people who received the baking soda and were able to achieve sufficient alkalinization, about 40% of them made it to the end of the study at 60 months. And that's just incredible. It really does go to show how important acid-base balance is in cancer. And the reason that cancers are so acidic is because of something known as the Warburg effect. And this is essentially a malfunctioning metabolism of glucose within cancer cells. So instead of taking that glucose and converting it mostly to carbon dioxide into water and to fully utilize all of the energy that that glucose has, in cancer, you get a lot of fermentation into what's called lactic acid. And this is what's responsible for the majority of the acidic nature of cancer and especially of the tumor region. And then once these tumors get established, their circulation of blood is pretty limited. And that means that their oxygen is limited, and that also makes it so that the metabolism is more fermentative and less oxidative, meaning that the tumors produce even more lactic acid from it and just become even more acidic. That acidity then is directly able to slow down the metabolism of glucose, which further compounds the issue. Acidity also has a crucial impact on the immune system. So we have immune cells, mainly T cells and things like macrophages and neutrophils. All of these immune cells are partially there in order to clear out cancer cells. But if the environment is overly acidic, these immune cells do not function properly. They don't have the same killing power that they do at a normal pH. And we can see this in research where animals that are given baking soda, their response to that baking soda is often dependent on the functioning of the immune system. So in this graph, you can see here that this CD8, that's a type of T cell, and those are very important for wiping out these tumors. And as you can see, the bicarbonate or the baking soda was able to increase those levels, and it was able to reduce the tumor size and prolong survival. And here's another study showing another type of immune cell called natural killer cells. They're also sensitive to the pH of their environment. And if it becomes too acidic, they put out less interferon gamma, which is an important part of their immune function. And this was in melanoma. And what's crazy about this is that these are universal causes of cancer among all different types of cancer, whether it's colon, breast, bladder, anything you can think of. All of these cancers are characterized by altered metabolism, systemic acidity, and impaired immunity. So realistically, anyone who's at risk for or already has cancer should be on top of their pH. And as they showed in that one paper, it seems as though a urinary pH above 7, not below 7, is really where you want to be. Now, of course, you can also get too basic, so you don't want your pH to go too much higher than 7. But this systemic acidity is definitely something that you want to keep an eye on if you care about preventing or healing your current cancer. Baking soda also has a ton of other benefits that I talked about in this video that I'll link right here, but it's truly incredible that something so cheap and so ubiquitous can actually hold the keys to be one of the most powerful tools against cancer that we have. Finally, if you're interested in getting any lab testing done, whether it's for cancer markers or lactic acid itself, or to measure your glucose metabolism, you can do so through Revelation Diagnostics. If you live in the US, all you gotta do is go to the website, pick out your labs, add them to cart, and then go to a lab nearest you. and you'll get them immediately. And you can use code ANALYZE for 10% off at checkout. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.